Today we're going to go over the first section of topic 2, which is chapter 4.1, Angles Formed by Intersecting Lines. We need to start by reviewing two important concepts that we're going to be using throughout this chapter. Those are vertical angles and a linear pair. Okay, so first of all, let's review the vertical angles theorem. If two angles, I'm reading what it says down here, if two angles are vertical angles, then the angles are congruent. So angles 1 and 3 are considered vertical angles, and angles 4 and 2 are considered vertical angles. Okay, so whenever you have two lines that are intersecting, they form vertical angles. Vertical angles are the angles that are opposite each other, so angle 1 is always going to be congruent or equal to angle 3, and angle 4 and 2 are going to be congruent, okay? Si dos ángulos son verticales, si dos ángulos son ángulos verticales, entonces los ángulos tienen que ser congruentes. Cuando tengan dos líneas que están intersectando, eso va a crear ángulos verticales. Ángulos verticales son los ángulos que están en opuesto uno al otro. Así que, por ejemplo, ángulo 1 y 3 son ángulos verticales y ángulo 2 y 4 son ángulos verticales. Los ángulos verticales siempre son congruentes, así que tienen la misma medida. Okay, así que ángulo 1 y 3 tienen que ser congruentes y ángulo 2 y 4, en este ejemplo, tienen que ser congruentes. Alright, so up here you can see that these two angles are vertical, so they have the same measure. They're both 100 degrees. And these two angles are vertical, so they have the same measure also, which is 80 degrees. Okay, estos dos ángulos son verticales, así que tienen la misma medida, y que es 100 grados, y estos dos también, los dos son 80 grados. Okay, and also notice that a straight line is always 180. A straight line is always 180. Right here I have a straight line, so notice that if I separate them into two angles, those two angles have to add up to 180. Whether I'm looking at it this way, if I'm looking at it like that's my, that didn't come out very straight. Let me draw it again. If I'm looking at it that way, alright, that means this angle with this angle has to add up to 180. Same thing if I look at the bottom, this angle plus this angle has to add up to 180. I could also look at it like this, okay? I could also look at this line and realize that this one plus this one has to add up to 180, just like this one to this one has to add up to 180. And also notice if you add them all up, it equals how much? 360. If you add up all these numbers, you get 360 because a circle is always 360. All right? Realizing all those relationships will help you solve problems, all right? Se tienen que dar cuenta que aquí tenemos una línea recta, dos líneas rectas. Y no importa de qué manera lo miran, siempre una línea recta tiene que medir 180 grados. Así que si lo miramos así, estos dos ángulos, la suma te da 180. Si lo miramos los dos ángulos que están abajo de esta línea, también 80 más 100 te da 180. Si miramos a esta línea, que también está separado en dos ángulos, esos dos ángulos, la suma te tiene que dar 180. Igualmente, estos dos aquí abajo juntos te tiene que dar 180. Y si sumo los cuatro ángulos, me tiene que dar 360 grados, porque un círculo siempre es 360 grados. Lo más que entienden de esas relaciones, lo más fácil que van a encontrar resolviendo los problemas. A linear pair, we already went over that. The word tells you what it means. Linear is talking about a line. A pair means two. So in this case, they're talking about two angles that create a line, and a line is always 180. All right? It has to be two angles that are next to each other. The word that they like to use is adjacent. Okay, remember that word? Let me just write it real quick. Adjacent. Adjacent means next to. Alright, so when you have two angles that are next to each other that form a straight line, that is a linear pair. They have to be next to each other, and they're going to share one side or one ray. They're going to have one ray or one side in common. But that's a linear pair, and it always has to add up to 180. And remember, two angles that add up to 180 are supplementary. Supplementary. A reminder, I gave you a way to remember which is complementary and which is supplementary. All right. If two angles add up to 90 degrees, they're complementary. And if two angles add up to 180, they're supplementary. And the way I told you could remember is that the number 90 comes before the number 180, just like the letter C in the alphabet comes before the letter S. That way you could always remember which is which. 90 is complementary, 180 is supplementary. You're going to have questions on that today, and that's very simple. That's from middle school. All right? Let me just repeat that in Spanish. Okay, así que un linear pair, eso quiere decir una pareja lineal. Una pareja, un par de ángulos que forman una línea. Ok, tienen que ser un par de ángulos que está uno al lado del otro. Esta palabra, lo van a ver, esta palabra adjacent, eso quiere decir al lado. Así que dos ángulos adjacent, dos ángulos que uno está al lado del otro y juntos forman una línea recta. Una línea recta siempre mide 180 grados. Y cuando tienes dos ángulos que la suma te da 180 grados, esos dos ángulos son suplementarios. Ya repasamos anterior, le estoy recordando, porque lo necesitan para este capítulo. Cómo recordar cuál par de ángulos es complementario y cuál es suplementario. Si la suma de dos ángulos te da 90 grados, eso se dice que son complementarios. En inglés, complementary. Y si la suma de los dos ángulos te da 180, esos son suplementarios. En inglés, supplementary. La manera de recordarse cuál es cuál es que el número 90 viene antes del número 180, igual que la letra C en el alfabeto viene antes de la letra S. Así que siempre complementario, la suma te da 90 grados, suplementario, la suma te da 180 grados. Van a tener que saber eso para hoy, para la tarea de hoy. Alright, let's look at our first example. I took kind of long on that first slide. Let me try to speed it up. Okay, so basically, they're going to give you problems like this, and you got to find the angles that are missing. Alright, it's very simple. I mean, the first one, the answer is already there. They want to know what is the measure of angle 6. Piece of cake. Angle 6 is vertical angles with the angle on top of it, which is 146 degrees. Therefore, it has to equal the same amount. We're done. Period. Ok, la pregunta es ¿cuánto mide ángulo 6? Ángulo 6 es un ángulo vertical con el que está arriba que dice que es 146 grados. Así que ángulo 6 tiene que también medir 146 grados. Y ya terminamos. Letter B. We got to find the measure of angles 5 and 7. Super easy. Ok, tenemos que encontrar la medida de ángulos 5 y 7. Alright, I'm drawing the picture that's there. Alright, I have this. Oh, that came out ugly. Let me try again. I have basically something like that, alright? And they're telling me this is 146 degrees. Well, hello, this is a straight line. If this is a straight line, that means whatever this is, when I add it to this one, it's got to give me 180. Okay, so if you just do 180 minus 146, that'll tell you that this angle has to be 34 degrees. All I did is 180 minus whatever this is to find out the one that's missing, because together they have to add up to 180. Another way to think about it is like this. Here's another way to think about it for the people that may not see it, right? Sorry, I'm not drawing it that beautiful here, but if this is 146 and this is x, okay? X plus 146 has to equal 180 because this is a straight line. Ok, como esto es una línea recta, la suma te tiene que dar 180, pero no sé cuánto es este ángulo. I don't know how much this angle is, so I put a variable. Alright, now subtract 146. And you're going to get x equals 34 degrees. Alright, so that means that this angle is 34 degrees. And that means that this one over here is also 34 degrees. So that's it. So angles 5 and 7 are both 34 degrees. Let me move on to do another example. Okay, look at this type of question, all right? You're going to have several word problems like this on your homework as well as on the test when it comes for topic 2. They put questions like this, all right? And these are the type of questions where I could see some of you getting confused unless you pay attention to me now, because I'm going to show you how to do them and that they're not difficult. It says the measure of two vertical angles are 58 degrees and 3x plus 4 degrees. Find the value of x. You don't have to draw a picture, but let me just draw it real quick to show you something. It says the measure of two vertical angles. Let's say we're talking about this one and this one. Is 58 degrees and 3x plus 4 degrees. Find the value of x. Find the value of x, okay? La medida de dos ángulos verticales es 58 grados y 3x más 4 grados. Tenemos que encontrar el valor de x. Alright, well, vertical angles have to be equal to each other. Okay, so los ángulos verticales, what am I saying? I didn't mean to put that degree sign. Los ángulos verticales tienen que ser igual uno al otro, tienen que ser congruentes. Así que voy a poner una ecuación diciendo que uno es igual al otro. Alright, since they got to be equal to each other, I'm going to do an equation showing that one of them equals the other one. Now I'm just going to use algebra to solve this equation. Voy a usar álgebra para resolver esta ecuación. The number that's with the variable you move last. First you got to get rid of this number by doing the opposite of plus 4, which is minus 4. Okay, el número que está con el variable se mueve al final. Primero tengo que quitar este número haciendo la operación opuesta de sumar 4, que sería restar 4. So that's going to give me 54 equals 3x. Okay, now I'm running out of space. Let me finish it over here. 54 equals 3x, okay? Now, I want to get rid of this 3 because I'm trying to get the x by itself. Yo quiero quitar el 3 para tener la x sola. So I'm going to do the opposite of multiplying by 3, which is going to be divide both sides by 3. Okay? Voy a hacer lo opuesto de multiplicar por 3, que sería dividir por 3. Y lo que se le hace a un lado de la ecuación también se le hace al otro lado. Alright, so 54 divided by 3, mental math. No calculators allowed. Be cool. 3 goes into 5 one time. Remainder 2. I bring down the 4. 3 goes into 24 8 times. That's it. Alright, so 54 divided by 3 is 18. That's my answer. And you should write your answer with the variable first. It's easier to read and to understand, okay? X equals 18. Ahí está mi respuesta. Alright, now let me go to number 7. I'm going to erase all this. Number 7. The measure of two vertical angles are given by the expressions x plus 3 degrees and 2x minus 7 degrees. Find the value of x. What is the measure of each angle? So we got two questions here. Tenemos dos preguntas aquí. The first question is find the value of x. And the second question is, what is the measure of each angle? Okay? So if these are two vertical angles, I'm just going to put that this one equals this one. That's how I'm going to set up my equation. La pregunta dice que la medida de dos ángulos verticales son estas expresiones. X más 3 y 2x más 7. Así que si esos son dos ángulos verticales, quiere decir que la medida de uno tiene que ser igual que la medida del otro. Así que así es como hago mi ecuación para empezar. Ahora la pregunta es qué es el valor de x y qué es la medida de cada ángulo. Alright, so look, I got to get all the x's on one side and combine like terms. And I got to get all the numbers that don't have an x on the other side. Alright, I always like to move the variable to the side where the number in front of it is going to remain positive. So that means I'm going to move this x to the right by subtracting x. Okay? Voy a mover todos los términos que tienen x para un lado y lo que no tienen x para el otro lado. Yo siempre trato de mover el término que tiene el variable para el lado donde el número al frente se mantiene positivo, que sería para la derecha. También se puede mover para la izquierda, no importa, pero yo prefiero hacerlo de esta manera en esta situación. Alright, so x minus x cancels out. 2x minus x is 1x. Because remember, there's an invisible 1 here. 2x minus 1x is 1x, and the 1 is invisible. So if I move this to the right, I got to move the minus 7 to the left by adding 7. Okay? Voy a mover el menos 7 para la izquierda, haciendo lo opuesto, que es sumar 7. Alright, that's going to give me x equals 10. Alright? So that's my first answer. Ahí está mi primera respuesta. X equals 10. Alright, now my second question is, what is the measure of each angle? To find the measure of each angle, I gotta substitute my answer here. Really, you only gotta do it once because both angles equal the same thing. But you could substitute it there or there, whichever one makes you happy. If I substitute it there, 10 plus 3 is 13 degrees. And if I substitute it here, I do 2 times 10, which is 20, and 20 minus 7 is also 13 degrees. You only have to do it once because vertical angles are equal to each other. Alright? So each angle measures 13 degrees. Cuando sustituyo x igual a 10, las dos respuestas me tienen que dar la misma cosa. Porque si son ángulos verticales, ya sabemos que uno tiene que ser congruente al otro. Así que solamente tiene que hacer eso una vez. Let's go on to the next one. And there are the answers. Alright, so here it says, I'm going to start reading right here. Complementary angles are two angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees, and supplementary angles are two angles whose measures have a sum of 180 degrees. You have seen that two angles that form a linear pair are supplementary. Okay, so they want us to use this picture, this diagram, to find the answers to their questions. The first question is this. Aquí está la primera pregunta. Find the measures of angle AFC and angle AFB. Alright, so let me highlight them so we can see what we're talking about. Angle FC, that's this angle right here. Alright, look how fast I'm going to do this. Alright, angle AFC forms a straight line here with angle DFC. I'll say it again. Angle AFC creates a straight line with angle CFD. So that means that angle AFC has to equal 90 degrees because angle DFC is 90 degrees. And together they got to add up to 180 because it's a straight line. Alright, I'll say it again in case anybody's lost. I have this. That's what I'm looking at. This is AFC and CFD. If this one is 90 degrees, that means this one also has to be 90 degrees because together they form a straight line, and when you add them up it has to equal 180. Okay? Este ángulo AFC, forma una línea recta con ángulo CFD. Una línea recta siempre mide 180, así que si este ángulo es 90 grados, lo sé por este cuadrito que está aquí, eso es lo que quiere decir. Entonces este también tiene que medir 90 grados para que la suma de los dos te dé 180. Alright, so I'm done with that one. Where does it say it here? Whatever, I'm not going to read all that. Alright, but there's your answer. Let's look at the next question. What's the measure of angle AFB? AFB. Alright, so remember that answer because I'm going to erase it right now. Alright, AFB. Where is it? Here's AFB. Alright, AFB. Okay, easy. If I know already that the measure of angle AFC, we already determined that the measure of angle AFC is 90 degrees. That means that this one right here, AFB, has to be 40 degrees. See how that works? Okay, so a straight line is 180. That means this entire angle has to be 90. And this angle that's missing here has to be 40. Because if we already determined that angle AFC is 90 degrees, we already determined that this whole thing is 90 degrees. Okay, ya determinamos que ángulo AFC tiene que ser 90 grados. Now if that's divided like this, okay, and this part is 50 degrees, that means this part right here that's missing has to be 40 degrees, so that when you add them up, it equals 90 degrees. Alright, so the measure of angle AFB equals 40 degrees. Alright, let's go on to question B. Question B says, find the measures, and let me change my color here. Find the measures of angle DFE. DFE, let me see that. Okay, so DFE is here. Alright, so really fast. DFE is vertical angles with AFB. So if AFB is 40, that means this one is also 40. Look how fast that is. Okay, I'll say it again. Angle DFE is a vertical angle with angle AFB. So if we already know that angle, if we already determined that angle AFB is 40 degrees, this one is also 40 degrees. ¿Ok? Ángulo DFE es un ángulo vertical con ángulo AFB. Si ya determinamos que ángulo AFB mide 40 grados, entonces este también tiene que medir 40 grados. And then the last one I gotta find is angle AFE. El último que me falta, ángulo AFE, la medida de ángulo AFE. The measure of angle AFE. AFE. Okay, look. Let me change colors here so I could write on top of that. Let's use blue, okay? So look, this is 40 degrees. We're trying to find how much is this angle right here. Notice that this creates, these two angles form a linear pair. A linear pair, a straight line. So that means that together they have to equal 180. If this one right here is 40, that means this one right here has to be, wait, I added wrong, my bad. I almost wrote the wrong number. That means this one right here has to be 140 degrees so that together they'll equal 180. Let me draw it here so you can see what I mean. I gotta erase what I drew here. Look, if this one right here is 40 degrees, let me draw it over here so that it's a little easier to see what I'm trying to say. Okay? This is D. Okay, we already determined that angle DFE is 40 degrees. Alright? So if we're trying to find out how much is this one, well, this is a straight line. A straight line is always 180. So if this is 40, this one has to be 180 minus 40, which gives you 140. Ok, si ya determinamos que ángulo DFE mide 40 grados y esto es una línea recta, un linear pair, forman juntos un linear pair, una pareja lineal o una pareja lineal. Entonces este ángulo AFE tiene que medir 180 menos lo que sea este, que es 40. 180 menos 40 que te da 40. Another way to say it, just in case, sorry that didn't come out good. I got that situation. X is this angle. You don't know what it is. They got to add up to 180. So just do this. So X has to equal 140 degrees. Alright. There are your answers. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay. This one is probably the most important one that you got to pay attention to, that you're most likely to mess up on the homework or to not understand, right? So, the directions tell you something very important. It says you could represent the measure of an angle and its complement as x and 90 minus x. Similarly, you could represent the measures of an angle and its supplement as x and 180 minus x, okay? So what I mean is this, right? They're going to give you a word problem. And to set up the word problem correctly, this is what you're going to do. If they mention an angle, you're going to write that. And if they mention its complement, like, okay, let's say this is an angle and you don't know how much it measures, right? This is an angle, x is an angle, and you do not know how much it measures. Its complement would be 90 minus whatever this angle is. Let me put it like that, okay? I'll say it again, okay? This is an angle. You don't know what it is. Its complement. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So the complement of this angle would have to be 90 minus x. I'll give you an example. If this angle happens to be 20, I'm just making this up. If this angle is 20, that means its complement would be 70 degrees. Or 90 minus 20, which gives you 70 degrees. Let me say that in Spanish real quick. I'll do another example. En estos problemas, okay, para poder traducirlo a álgebra, es muy importante que entiendan cómo se hace. Si ellos mencionan un ángulo que no saben la medida de ese ángulo, se pone X. Y si mencionan el complemento de ese ángulo, se escribe 90 menos X. Déjame explicar por qué. Recuerden que ángulos complementarios son dos ángulos que la suma te tiene que dar 90 grados. Así que déjame inventar un número. Vamos a decir que este ángulo es 20 grados. El ángulo complementario de este ángulo sería 70, porque 20 más 70 te da 90. Ahora, la manera que se encuentra el ángulo complementario sería haciendo 90 menos la medida de este ángulo, que es 20. 90 menos 20. I hope that made sense. I'll say it again. Just one more example, just in case anybody out there needs it. An angle. This is an angle, and I don't know how much it measures. I put X degrees. Si esto es un ángulo y no sé cuánto mide, pongo X grados. Its complement, you would write it like this. El ángulo complementario se escribe así. Now, whatever random number I put here, let's say this is 40 degrees. I'm just making it up. Vamos a decir que este ángulo es 40 grados. El ángulo complementario sería 50. Its complementary angle would be 50 degrees. How do I know that? Because 90 minus 40 is 50 degrees. That's how this works. Right? Now, same thing with supplementary angles. Ahora lo mismo, pero con ángulo suplementario. This is X is an angle. I don't know what it is. It's supplementary angle. Supplementary. I would write it as 180 minus X degrees. Se escribe de esta forma, 180 menos X. Let me give you an example. Let's say X, vamos a decir que X es 110 grados. Let's say X is 110 degrees. Okay, its supplementary angle would have to be 70 degrees. Because when I add them, it has to equal 180. How did I get 70 degrees? In my mind, I'm doing 180 minus whatever this one is. 180 minus 110 is 70. Okay? Si este ángulo es 110, el ángulo suplementario tiene que ser 70, porque la suma me tiene que dar 180. ¿Cómo encontré 70? Porque en mi mente estoy haciendo 180 menos lo que sea este ángulo, que en este caso es 110. 180 menos 110 me da 70. Alright, let's go to the problem. Look how I'm going to write this, okay? First, a couple things. I used to teach middle school for many years, and I would teach kids, or I would try to teach them, how do you translate this to algebra? The word is always means the equal sign. Alright, so when you see the word is, that means the equal sign. Cuando vean la palabra is, ponen el signo de igual, si están traduciendo esto a álgebra. Alright, so the measure, let's start with let me change the color of my pen here. The measure of an angle. Quick question. Do I know the measure of this angle that they mentioned? Do I have any idea what it measures? Absolutely not. I don't. So what am I going to put? X. La medida de un ángulo. No sé qué es la medida. Así que voy a poner esta variable, X. The measure of an angle is... I put the equal sign. You know what? My bad. It said is equal. So there's many problems that just say is. I didn't realize it said equal right next to it. But whatever. Alright, even further to help you out, is equal to, alright, no me di cuenta, no me fijé en lo que decía después de is, pero hay muchos problemas donde solamente te ponen is, esa palabra, y tienen que poner, eso quiere decir el signo de igual. So, is equal to the measure of its complement. The measure of its complement. You write it like this. That's it. That's all they wanted me to write there. They wanted me to use the expressions to find a measure. Okay, that's all they wanted me to write there. Okay, now let's go to number 10. The measure... Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I forgot to do one more thing. The measure of an angle is equal to the measure of its complement. Okay, listen. For a lot of the problems that we're about to do, you're going to have to write out the equation. However, and I apologize, I was so stuck on going over what 90 minus x is and 180 minus x, like how to write that part, that I kind of didn't focus on what the question was asking. For this one, I'm gonna be real. You could just use common sense and realize that the answer has to be 45 degrees. I'll show you two ways you could do it. First of all, if the measure of an angle is equal to the measure of its complement, that means both angles are equal to each other, and they're complementary angles, which add up to 90. It's got to be 45, because 45 plus 45 equals 90. But let's say you don't realize that. Okay, and you write out the equation the way I told you to. Alright, so let me solve this equation for you. Alright, let me get both x's on the same side. So I'm going to move this x to the left by adding x to both sides. This will give me 2x, because there's an invisible 1 here and an invisible 1 here. Equals 90. Now divide both sides by 2. Dividen los dos lados por 2. So x equals 90 divided by 2, which is 45 degrees. Okay, but you could definitely, like if you do this one mental math or common sense, that's totally understandable. That's totally okay. Nothing wrong with that. But you're going to have to learn how to write them for the other ones that are coming up. Okay, estaba explicando esta pregunta. y estaba tan enfocado en cómo escribir el ángulo complementario y suplementario que no me di cuenta que esta es bien fácil y se puede hacer con sentido común. La pregunta dice que la medida de un ángulo es igual a la medida de el ángulo complementario. Ok, así que dos ángulos complementarios, la suma siempre te tiene que dar 90. Si los dos ángulos son igual, miden igual, tiene que ser 45, porque es la única posibilidad que sean que miden igual los dos ángulos y que te den 90. Pero si no se dan cuenta, pueden resolver esta ecuación y pueden ver que te da 45. Alright, look at number 10, la número 10. The measure of an angle. Do I know how much the measure of that angle is? Nope, so I'm going to put x. Is, alright, see, in this one they didn't put is equal to, so I was right to tell you guys that is, you put the equal sign. I feel a little bit redeemed there. Alright, so is. Aquí no te escribieron es igual a, solamente ponieron is. Así que para esa palabra se pone el signo de igual, como le estaba explicando. Is twice. What does twice mean? If somebody has $10 and you have twice that amount, you have $20. Twice means you multiply by 2. Alright, so twice means you're going to multiply something by 2. Okay? Twice the... Let me change colors here. Is twice the measure of its supplement. The measure of its supplement is 180 minus x, which I went over earlier. So that's how you set up the equation. La medida de un ángulo es dos veces. Twice quiere decir dos veces. Eso quiere decir multiplicar por dos. Por eso puse dos y los paréntesis. La medida del suplementario, el ángulo suplementario, o la medida del suplemento. No sé la mejor manera de traducir eso. Ok, así que 2 multiplicado por, ya le expliqué cómo se escribe un ángulo suplementario en este caso, que sería así. Okay, so now I just got to use algebra to solve the equation. Okay, ahora voy a hacer álgebra para resolver esto. First thing that should pop up in your head is I got to do the distributive property. La propiedad distributiva. So when you do that, you're going to get x equals 2 times 180 is 360. And 2 times negative x, or 2 times minus x, however you want to think about it, is going to be negative 2x. Okay, now I got to get all the terms. I got to combine like terms. Everything that has x on one side, everything that doesn't have x on the other side. So I'm going to move minus 2x to the left because that'll keep the number in front of x positive. You don't have to do it that way, but that is going to be the quickest way in this situation. Okay, last step is divide both sides by 3. I'm running out of colors here. I think I've used them all. And the colors I don't pick, it's because they don't come out too good, in my opinion. Alright, so anyways, divide both sides by 3. X equals, mental math, don't take out a calculator, that's weak, unless you need to. Okay, 3 goes into 3, 1 time. 3 goes into 6, 2 times. 3 goes into 0, 0 times. That's my answer, x equals 120. Okay, now, let me see one thing real quick. The measure of angles. Yeah, those are my answers. All right, let me move on. The only thing different is that this is why I paused before I went to the next slide. Okay, they also added the measure of its supplement. All right, so 120, x equals 120. That was my answer. So its supplementary angle would be 180 minus 120, which is 60 degrees. On this one, both angles measure the same amount. All right. I should have done that one last step. I kind of hesitated before going to the next slide. Alright, all they did is I found out what x equals, and its supplement has to be 180 minus 120, okay? Todo lo que está aquí es lo que yo expliqué. Lo único que me faltó, que debía haber hecho, es que yo encontré que la medida del ángulo es 120 y lo que no hice, el ángulo suplementario es 180 menos el ángulo que yo tenía, así que sería 60. 180 menos 120 te da 60. Alright. Okay, almost done. You're going to get questions like this where you got to pick out which, identify. You got to identify which angles are vertical, which angles are linear pair, and which are neither. All right, let me see if I can go through this quickly. I'm trying to make the lessons fast, guys, but I also got to go over everything. Okay, so letter A, angle BFC, here's BFC, and DFE. That's an easy one. That's an easy one to get you warmed up. If you mess that one up, you need to go back to like step 1 or something. All right, so those are obviously vertical pair. Okay, esa era demasiado fácil. All right, let's look at letter B. Hold on, let me change the color of my pen to blue. BFA and DFE. Let me find that. B in blue. BFA and DFE. BFA and DFE, those are neither. Because they're not vertical and they are not linear. So they're neither. And yes, you're going to have some answers that are neither. Okay, esos son ninguno. No son ni vertical ni un par linear. Letter C. Wait, let me change it to magenta. Okay, angle BFC. You know what? I gotta erase this because I can't see. Angle BFC. Angle BFC. And angle CFD. CFD. That is a linear pair. Linear pair because they form a straight line. Alright, listen guys, to save time, I think I've gone over 3 different types here. I'm gonna go on to the bottom here. Okay, ya eso es suficiente ejemplo. Eso es bien fácil. Let's look at number 2. Find the measure of angle AFE. AFE. Alright, give me 1 second here. Oh, okay, to find this, I had to look around because I'm like, okay, wait, I need some more information. Look up here. It's easy to miss, but look up here. Okay, necesitamos esta información que está aquí arriba. Alright, so, let me change my color real quick to red. Alright, it says AFB is 50 degrees. So, this right here, let me not write it there because it's hard. Let me put it like that. That angle is 50 degrees. And EFD, this angle right here, is also 50 degrees. Okay? So, look at what I want you to see. I'm going to draw it over here as best as I can. Alright, it says that this is 50 degrees, and I didn't draw it perfectly, but it says that this part right here is 50 degrees. Well, right here I have a straight line, and we already know that a straight line has to measure 180. This angle plus this angle, which I don't know what it is, plus this angle has to equal 180. Let me put it next there. Okay, cuando sumo estos 3 ángulos me tiene que dar 180 grados porque esta es una línea recta. 50 plus 50 is 100. So, I mean, obviously you should see the answer in your mind already. This is unnecessary, but just in case. Alright? 50 más 50 es 100. So this one obviously has to be 80 degrees. Alright, so this angle has to measure 80 degrees. Cake. Let's look at number 3. What's the measure of angle DFC? DFC, right here. Okay, look, DFC. Okay, we already determined that this angle right here, we just did it a second ago, is 100 degrees. Okay, that was our answer right here, that this equals 100 degrees. Okay, and we know that, hold on, let me look at this correctly because I'm getting a little, give me 1 second. No, my bad. Let me backtrack. I mean, what I said was right, but I didn't need that for this problem. I'm sorry. Right here, this angle, it says right here the angle EFD is 50. Okay, este ángulo es 50. And this is a straight line. Esto es una línea recta. So that's a linear pair. That means this angle right here has to be 180 minus 50, which means it has to be 130 degrees. Okay? That's a straight line. A straight line is always 180. So if this is 50, you do 180 minus 50 to find this one, which is 130. Last one, angle BFC. Angle BFC. Where is that? BFC. Alright, that one's too easy. Alright, BFC is a vertical angle with EFD. EFD is 50. So if this is 50, that means this one is also 50. Alright, that one's too easy. Okay, ese ángulo BFC es un ángulo vertical con ángulo EFD, que ya sabemos que es 50 grados, así que los dos tienen que medir igual, 50 grados. Alright, there are your answers. Okay, last slide. 3 last examples that we're going to do. These are word problems that we're going to translate to algebra using the x, 90 minus x, and 180 minus x that I went over earlier. So I'm going to read them and watch how I translate each sentence into an equation, okay? Pay attention to that, please. Okay, quiero que pongan atención cómo estoy traduciendo cada oración a una ecuación de álgebra. Okay, so look at number 10. The measure of an angle. Do I know what the measure of that angle is? No. So I'm going to put x. Is, I said put the equal sign. 3 times. 3 times means you multiply by 3. Tres veces. Se multiplica por 3. 3 times. The measure of its supplement. Supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180. So the way I would write the measure of its supplement is 180 minus x. That's how I set up my equation. Okay, now I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to solve that equation for x. First thing I'm going to do is the distributive property. La propiedad distributiva. Alright, so that's going to give me x equals 3 times 180, mental math. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 8 is 24. So I'm going to put the 4 and carry the 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus the 2 that I just carried is 5. So 3 times 180 is 540. 3 times negative x is negative 3x. Now since I'm running out of space, let me go up here, okay? Let me write it up here. Alright, now I got to get all the terms that have x on one side and everything that does not have x on the other side. So what I'm going to do is move the minus 3x to the left by doing plus 3x to both sides. 1x plus 3x is 4x. Last step is I got to divide. Divide both sides by 4. Okay, voy a dividir los dos lados por 4 porque aquí se está multiplicando por 4. Así que estoy haciendo la operación opuesta. Alright, so that's going to give me x equals, mental math, 4 goes into 5 one time, remainder 1. The one that remains, you put it in front of this 4, making it 14. 4 goes into 14 3 times, remainder 2. The 2 that remains, you're going to put it in front of this 0 to give you 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times. X equals 135. So the question was, what is the measure of an angle is 3 times the measure of its supplement. Okay, so if x equals 135, excuse me, it says the measure of an angle, this number is 3 times the measure of its supplement. Okay, so the measure of its supplement is 180 minus x. So 180 minus 135, because x equals 135, okay? Aquí tengo el valor de x. Para encontrar el ángulo suplementario de x, tengo que hacer lo siguiente, 180 menos el valor de x. Así que 180 menos 135. If x equals 135, its supplementary angle, I could find it by doing 180 minus 135. 180 minus whatever x equals to. All right, when I do that, I'm going to get 45 degrees. So x equals 135 and its supplementary angle is 45, because when you add them up, you get 180. Okay, x es 135 y el ángulo suplementario es 45 grados, porque cuando sumo los dos me da 180. Alright, next one, same thing. The measure of the supplement of an angle. Let's stop right there. The measure of the supplement of an angle. You write that like this. Now listen, you're supposed to write it like this to indicate that the whole thing, whatever this gives you, you measure it in degrees. Okay, but for the sake of an algebra equation, you don't need to write that degrees or the parentheses sign in this situation. Okay, so I'm going to erase all this and just write 180 minus x. Okay, están supuestos de escribirlo de esta forma para indicar que todo lo que está aquí adentro se mide en grados. Así que lo que me dé la medida de este ángulo es en grados. Ok, pero cuando lo escriben en una ecuación no es necesario escribir los paréntesis ni este símbolo aquí. Así que lo voy a quitar. Vamos a escribirlo más simple así. Alright, so the measure of the supplement of an angle, that's this part right here. I jumped I automatically wrote the equal sign, but it's right here. Is. For the word is, you write the equal sign. Para la palabra is, se escribe el signo de igual. 3 times, we already saw that. 3 times, that means multiplication. You multiply by 3. The measure of its complement. The measure of its complement. La medida del complemento. So you write it like that. Again, the key is setting up the equation correctly. Alright, now I'm just going to solve the equation. First, I'm going to do the distributive property. La propiedad distributiva. Alright, so on this side, I still got 180 minus x equals 3 times 90. Well, 3 times 0 is 0. And 3 times 9 is 27. Therefore, 3 times 90 is 270. And 3 times negative x is negative 3x. Okay, now combine like terms. Let's get all the terms with an x on one side and all the terms without the x on the other side. So I'm going to move minus 3x to the left by doing plus 3x. And I'm going to move 180 to the right by doing minus 180. Alright, so right here, negative x plus 3x. That's the same thing as saying 3x minus x. I got 2x. This cancels out. Right here, 270 minus 180. Mental math. 0 minus 0 is 0. I cannot take away 8 from 7. I got to make the 7 bigger by borrowing 1 from the 2. The 2 becomes a 1, and the 1 that you borrowed, you put it in front of the 7, making it 17. 17 minus 8 is 9, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So now I got 2x equals 90. 2x equals 90. So to solve that, just do 90 divided by 2. X equals 45. So the measure of the supplement of an angle is 3 times the measure of its complement. So, okay, I got it. I was just rereading the question. Alright, I think you all follow me in how I got x equals 45. But it could be a little tricky to figure out what are they asking me. Are they asking me what x equals? Let's look at the question again. Okay, they're asking you to find this, the measure of the supplement of an angle. And they're asking you to find the measure of its complement. So basically, x equals 45. If I want to find out the measure of the supplement of an angle, I got to do this, 180 minus x. In this case, 180 minus 45. Let me write it like this, 180 minus 45. Go like that. 180 minus 45, which will give you 135. And if I want to find the measure of its complement, okay, the complement would be 90 minus x. So 90 minus 45, that one you could do mental math. 90 minus 45 equals 45 degrees. I'll double check on the next slide. I'm positive these are the right answers, and I just want to show you that this is what they were asking for, if I'm not mistaken. Because let's be real, like if you read that, it's not written very clearly. It's easy to get confused with that, even for me. I had to read it twice. Okay, let's look at number 12. The measure of an angle, stop right there. The measure of an angle, that would be x. The measure of an angle increased by 20 degrees, all right? Some of you already know what to put, but just for everybody, let's say you're not sure, make up an easy example in your brain. Let's say you got $50. If I increase that by 20, you would have $70. How did you do that? You add 20. You don't multiply by 20, you add 20, okay? So it's going to be add 20. Let me just repeat that in Spanish real quick. La medida de un ángulo. Ahí paré y enseguida escribí una X porque no se sabe qué es la medida de este ángulo que están hablando. Increased, aumentado por 20. Si alguien tiene duda si eso es sumar o multiplicar por 20, inventen un ejemplo fácil para pensar. Por ejemplo, si tienes $50 y aumentan eso por 20, tendrían $70, porque sumaron 20. Eso es lo que dice aquí, sumé 20. Okay, next part, is, you write the equal sign. Again, I forgot. I'm literally going one word at a time, and I didn't see that it said is equal to. Okay, fine. Is equal to. So I write the equal sign. Okay, es igual a the measure of its complement. The measure of its complement, you write like that. That should be a 0. It didn't come out right. That's a 0. All right, now let's just solve the equation. X plus 20 equals 90 minus x. Let me erase all this, and I'll rewrite it up here. X plus 20 equals 90 minus x. X plus 20 equals. Okay, so I'm going to get all the terms with x on one side and everything that does not have x on the other side. So let's move minus x to the left by doing this. X plus x is 2x. And let's move plus 20 to the right by doing minus 20 and minus 20. The equal sign stays right here. Okay, 90 minus 20 is 70. My last step is just divide 70 by 2. So x equals 35, and so the measure of an angle, the answer to this one is what is, they're asking you what is x. Okay, x is 35 degrees. Okay, and the measure of its complement, okay, would be 90 minus 35 degrees. I know 90 minus 30 is 60. So if I subtract 35, I got to subtract 5 more from 60. So that gives me 55. And you could see if I add 55 plus 35, it gives me 90. All right, let's check the next slide. And you can see what I was telling you is right. You know, it could be tricky for some of you at first to read the, to understand. I think all of you would understand how I'm getting x. All right, but again, they're asking you, okay, what's the measure of an angle? It's 35. The measure of its complement is 55. On the earlier one, I found what is x. So if the measure of the angle is 45, its complement is 45, and its supplement is 135. Okay, that concludes today's lesson.